The voices you are about to hear are a small example of the many recorded by the Herd Group for the WW2 Home Front Recall project. This was done over 2005 and the winter of 2006. Chrissy Manson.
But, right enough, we were kind of aware of going round there, and in fact I think that they were even like shrapnel finding that top of the hull, just up at the back of the house. Of course, young age you didn't hear what the game really, what was the way of it. En dan we hem doen de zwaartol en vaart, die then of course going to the school, and the war must have been a fish going through then, but by that time Meg Tulloch was her teacher, and they were one most almighty day, and then Fox said afterwards it was French boats in Solanvo. They were surely bringing action of some kind, and they're happy, and they should even be firing up our own plane. But I mind Meg took was all of the boys' clockroom, and told us stories and things while all this was going on.
Yeah.
Because right enough they had sandbags all the way out around the boys' clockroom. But I can't mind what age I would have been then, because like when I started school, that was Clemmy Leslie, die can't do it for the rest day.
Anna Irvin. And you said it was the wartime when you were there. What do you mind about that?
I do not just mind an awful lot, because this war was, but the 8-year-old bairn that meant not. But my father was in the home guard, and I mind about them going on this home guard exercises, and just before I left the school then, I mind them coming and putting strips tip out the windows and the glass partitions. This was to be, luckily if they were air raid, and this would stop the glass just splintering in all directions. And well, they were rationing, I know, but in the country rationing didn't mean that much, because on a craft you were self-sufficient. For you had your own milk and butter and eggs, and in winter you had meat. We had a hen to kill, and at Christmas we had in our own geese, and if the sugar could be had, well, they were rhubarb, and we also had blackcurrants and red currants, and my mother made jam. So it really, the war didn't affect us to a great extent, and that. But I mind the Red Cross, and my mother was a member of the Red Cross, and they had a meeting every week, and I think a lot of what they did nothing. Comforts for the soldiers, or whatever I think it was. They made socks and jumpers and balaclavas and things like that. And the black coat, I mind about the black coat. But I do mind the one night that they thought that Shetland was going to be invaded. No, I don't know. The word I think came with a telegram, and it said invasion imminent. And I can mind me father going and this other man gathering, and he had to go to the shop and the post office and be there all night to be on hand for the telephone. And I mind my mother Patton was debated, and that's sort of funny. We really hardly knew what an invasion was, but we picked it up on it. My mother and father that that was something more as what we were ever been used to. But of course there was nothing that happened, and in the morning they were all stood down. But the Germans did leave Norway that night, but apparently the weather was against them, and they turned back.
Jackie Edwardson. So is thy memories of the skill quite good then?
For the most part, yes, I think so. Well, I must say the later years at the school, I was fed up with me then, but I really did end up with I didn't like the school, and money time wagged off, and I wasn't at the school, I should have been. But for the most part, I was reasonably happy, so. But I must say I wasn't sorry to leave it. I left it when I was 15, 1948. They were in the process then making the blocks to build the secondary school, so I was never any further as primary, that was my lot.
So do you into the skill through the war then?
Yeah, they started in 1938 and got up to 1948.
Did the war impinge on your skill years at all?
Well, yes, in that you had to carry gas masks along with your school bag, and I mind them putting on your sticky muslin sort of thing on the school windows. Yeah. So in the case of an air raid, they would have the windows shut up and the free out of the place. I mind that being on. Really, there's only other thing is that I can't say I mind much about it.
Yeah. Can you mind like soldiers being around?
Yes, I can. I mind being or two back and forth, and I can mind seeing German aircraft out here once or twice. I mind when, I'm thinking what year that would have been, somewhere the war years. Whether he was been raiding some way about Sullenborn, I mind they were surely chased them or fired at him or something, and he came in over this way. It was right low on the way out the running for, but you could see the minute of the gun just easily, and great muckle German cross up to the side. I mind the fox saying, come in, bind in, don't go. Further we got shot or something. They get by and never let it was a good
So it didn't really affect you just then?
No, not that much. I mind a lot of the Catalinas and Sunderlands for worse sides, they would say, here in Runnisford back and forth. That was based flying boats. They would land occasionally in Runnisford here. They were based at Sullenborg. But I can mind them over well.
And did it affect like your standard of living, would you say at all?
I really don't think it did that much. Well, of course, rationing, I mean, there were shortages of like sugar and that kind of thing. But I really can't mind it. See, there were that much there in days. I mean, you had the craft, and a lot of your living was half of the craft, so it really didn't affect you all that much. But as to say, the luxuries of life, they were not much had anyway. You didn't have much to buy or anything, but no, really, no. I had a good enough life. I mean, we never starved. We were over with it. I mind that though, sugar was rationed and sweeties was rationed and all that kind of thing, but sweeties you hardly ever saw. And sugar I mind the folk, they will get the ration, but if Wizard got the sugar, the folk could forgo their ration, because so we could have. So that was over with.
Elsie Manson. Were there any other kind of barter system apart from wool then? Were there other things that you could sell to get earnings or get money?
No, I don't think so.
No eggs or anything?
Oh yes, you sold eggs. You could sell eggs. They would, especially in Dutland areas, like the vans going round would come in with whole loads of eggs sometimes, which all had to be washed and packed, you see, as well, with the assistants. There was a lot of eggs sold at that.
Jean Duncan.
When did I mind either of it? We did that was at wartime, of course. Yeah, no, that was by the old son of the oldie. We left there. It was in wartime, and they wouldn't tell us exactly when the boat was sailing. They would say the day that it was sailing, but they wouldn't tell you when it was sailing. And then, the last mensen daar veel, so got word that I'd heard somewhere that this boat was sailing, I think, for the Monday morning. It's for the Monday, they told me by the morning. So anyway, we got into Lerrock early on Monday morning. And it was that rough that some of them didn't come, but I good, and we left Lerrock, we had a troop ship. There was a troop ship again, and we left. And there were a trawler supposed to be escorting and defending the troop ship. And we went as far as Orkney, and then the troop ship decided to that shelter at Orkney, but the old son of a troop shop on the trawler decided to carry on. We came to Aberdeen and the port was closed, and they decided that they would run to Inverness. Now, I was been sick before we were outside the Besser Light, and the time that we were gone for Aberdeen, I was talking that'll be fair as a boat socks. We were going on for Inverness, and then there were the stewards aboard that came by, and he said, "You doesn't look very well," and I said, "No, I'm awful sick, was this boat sunk?" And he said, "No, I'll set you pretty fit." And he came with a bottle of rum and gave me some rum. Then I actually was kind of drunk, but I was happy as a lark. But anyway, we came to Inverness, and then there were no train, but a troop train. And so they put us aboard this troop train. And there were no light upon it, and no food. And I wasn't eating for I had one of those spewed the breath of light. And it was terribly cold. And we sat up there with this troop train, and they were at the stations, they were serving tea and things to the troops. So some of them got tea and read their basket or something, and gave it was students that was on board. And they actually got it for me, but they didn't charge was anything for it as far as I came. We know it would have had muckle. Well, we would have had a grain gone of water coming home, you know, saying on the bucket. But I can't mind full long we were up at that trip, and that was, I think, a week and more after I went to my digs, and every time that I get to lie down to sleep to be just heaved up. Well, I thought it was heaving up, but that was the worst trip that I ever had. But anyway, I left to tell the tale. I went the night at the Chairman's wiping out right side. They come in for every direct. It's a lovely night, moonlight night, and a beautiful night. And I mind me sudden, I was not a student then. I was finished and I was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I did some teaching in Edinburgh. And I was sudden, I must have been a student. Yeah, I must have been a student because I did some teaching after that. But then I wanted to win him, so I did him and stop at teaching. And then planes come in for all over. They were coming from north and south and east and west, just verging in up a Glasgow, and you could see them just passing. Over the moonlight, you could see them going over, and the few Spitfires, it was about trying to shut them down, but they were awful. Devastation, of course. After the war, they got new houses and all. And if you would survive and want to tell them, they were a lot, of course, they were awful. Massacre of the Falkland.
Bobby Mood.
And I was about 2 years at that job. Then the war came along. I left that and I got a job in the Naval Canteen Service in Navies, as it's known as. And I spent the rest of the war with the Navy.
Right, so where's that at? Where was that based?
I was here, when shops was coming in here in the war time, and they were, they had a big canteen down at the banks here. There were beer canteens for the boys coming ashore.
So whereabouts down at the banks then?
Just the old store, there are an old sheet still at the banks yet down there, just the head of where the beer was, or about beer down there.
And would they been money boats then that came in?
Oh, there were a lot of, there were an awful lot that came in a while, the first of the war, especially after the Royal Oak was sunk in Scapa Flow. Then they shifted the lock of fleet up here then, And there were some kind of alt-class cruisers. There were what they called the C-class and D-class. There was, the C's was Cardiff Colombo Club, so, and a lot of that, and then the D's was the Dragon, the Diomede, the Delhi, and the Needon. And then they had an anti-aircraft cruiser later on, kind of way for aircraft, for defence. And they had, sure, line up by here. That was the Coventry, they had come in anti-aircraft. Sure, they bombed her one day, so it was bad road action, but they didn't sink her. So they had to go to that dry dock after that. But they drop it, in different times they drop it bombs here at Vaux. I mean, they drop it 4 bombs just after the Kirk away. That was the, I can't make what, really cruisers would land there. And then there were on bombs that was dropped over the Hull, that was the same day, I think. There were 4 bombs dropped at the back of the house Hull.
And what's the story with that?
Well, I heard some of the postcasts, the postcast thing afterwards, that was where the rabbit was supposed to be killed, it was the Hull. But
that's for the Run Rabbit Run story?
Run Rabbit Run, that's right, that's the wartime song. Yeah.
Do you think the rabbit was killed?
Well, I don't know. They thought he'd photographed looking as though he was being gutted, so if he was gotten on with the butcher shop and they come out and buy you. Yeah. But they were 2 or 3 times they were meant to machine gun and the old tanker they off here, that was, and there were bullets hit Kirk. That they were Sunday, it was upon Sunday morning, and there were burns at the Kirk, and they died under the sit and from the rattle of those machine guns, and there were one bullet that got to the CU house, and that was the pretty house on this side of the Kirk, and they found the bullet sticking on a mantelpiece, in the main room, in the bedroom.
Nobody was hurt at that?
No, nobody hurt, very lucky.
Were there anybody hurt at all in any of that?
No. They were in the planes, the German plane shot down, and she come down to the sea off of Shetland there.
Right.
The crew of her was killed, of course, but they were no actually, nobody ashore got hurt.
Were there a lot of soldiers and that about here then?
Oh yeah, they weren't so much here, but around the other side, around about Scots, the Graven, there were camps there, and then of course there was the RAF was at Shrumbo. That was a big camp, that thing. I think there were between 2,000 and 3,000 in that camp at one time. They had sometimes up to 20 flying boats in there. That was Catalinas and Sunderland flying boats. So they did a lot of patrolling for the submarine patrols.
Were you much affected then by the
wartime? Yeah, well, they were, of course, our thing was very strictly rationed, and you weren't allowed to be seen with a camera or a binoculars or anything like that, of course. That was, I mean, you couldn't lock it up for that offence. But, oh, well, I did a king. They were little locks of things that was. There were not any petrol to be gotten had away, of course, for motorcycles and that you couldn't. That was kind of job. You did get a ration of coupons for a ration.
Minnie Williamson. Going on, what do you mind about the war? You mentioned the war.
Well, I didn't ken the First World War.
No, the Second World War.
Ja. Well, dus is de Second World War, well, dus is then the main machine that it war. In the worst of was.
You were still in the same place then?
No, at that time, dus is I was going to Hereford. They had not a factory in Hereford. I was working there, and then dus is, well, I was a kind of adventures with motors sort of way. And I hate the learn pass a test. I had him leave that right. And dus is Tony Tulloch was short of drivers. And of course I had to go for that, so I did a lot of driving, you see. I did a lot of driving at the war time. That was not very fine, you know, because you had to drive with young Blackwoods. And it took me te laat, dus maybe te fetch. Eens komen heen, en verpat in zijn waar, en we were Blackwood. And you couldn't see what was coming, and I didn't mind that's what it could be. But I never had accidents for the best. But it was a fine driving.
No.
You know.
So you drove with no light at all?
Well, you see, they had a mask upon the light for the head, there was a slut.
Yeah.
And you could just see the light.
Yeah.
But you couldn't see anything coming, you see. I mean, that sort of way.
Dat was voor Johnny Tolk, was het?
That's what you were doing, she was working till you. No, you used to hate nothing in the own.
What about your father's work, can you mind?
Well, he was just, he was just ordinary craftsman and working just down that line and that was hard. And they were also that what they called the Arnold station. They had a kind of stations in Arnold. Now, he was just more a fisherman, the case. He was just a fisherman, he was down to the fishing. Yeah, yes, and they're free, because I was a lot harder then. I mean, they did after the line, the case, what they called the line.
Yeah.
And my father was a man, he was never a drunken boy. And he came home this line, and that was at the war time, but this bottle of wine came to the hoop. Yes. Of course, they never departed. And she buckets, she took a show what they could. He was been at the line, and he came back, and he came along in his neighbour's house, and he came home, and I couldn't think what the matter he had him, for he was so sorry. Gaffer and taller, and she'd never seen him like that before. And then he's getting along this house, and he was trying to get a big glass of this wine. That I do mind very well too.
Is dat de barrel at Tina?
Yes, she's been on the hoop again.
Dat was zo moet dat or something.
Well, I don't know if she did, Ronnie. I'm not quite sure what she did, but this will have work on saving the wine.
Nee, ze had hem met de karren en anyway, het gaat
eigenlijk die bottom top of the world. I ain't mind with that wine. The swear on him, I thought I could understand what that is. Because he was just lachen and gaffen and that's what the good is. Well, he was a boy, he laughed because he was that stupid.
But that had been the winter line of the bird a week.
Yes, dat was het. Ze is een jaar af de ze was komen lang. Hadden ze 13 mensen, dat was een driehoek. En de kist, de ligt 13 mensen.
Daarmee kun je dus
weten. Ja. En die is hier lang daar.
Oh, yes.
Ja, ik heb lang dat is goed. Funny things that
John Winchester. It would have been the war years when
that was the war years, yeah, and we used to find bits of shrapnel in the pitstack, shrapnel for cast iron shrapnel for sewn, they're firing at their spleens.
That wouldn't have been having the pitstack, was that coming for the Hull then, was that?
No, I thought it was having the pitstack. Well, I'm not sure about that, but I think it arrived, because they were firing at a good height up. So there was a bit of kind of activity there, but they were really involved in any of that. Military was very much in places, in different camps and that.
Can you mind much about their presence at all then?
Oh yeah, I mind them in about the soldiers, and I used to speak to the soldiers and all if they were about.
But
so I used to see the aeroplanes, the old biplanes that they had and stuff like it was out patrolling, very slow. You'd see them going on the back of the house of Nance usually, like looking for submarines or something.
Yeah.
That seemed to get in because the old blackout was on.
Mighty Sinclair. Right, Mighty, you left Halswick when you were a young lass, did you?
Yes. I left to go into what was then called Anderson Institute. And of course for there I got to Gym College. And then of course I got married. I was in the land army for a spell. Because we weren't a reserve, we were like teachers. We weren't a reserved occupation. So I was in the land army. I did first, I was a month in Bresa. And then I was a couple of years in Tinwell. And I ended up in Whiteness, aside John Davis. He didn't really have a farm. He had one cow. He had 20 sheep. Then he did get in calves. Surely bought them for some way to feed them up and sell them on. Because I maintained to go and feed those calves and that. I wasn't there that very long because I got married. John surely gave up kind of not that long after that too. And he married a cousin of his. His father was Welsh, his mother was Shetland. She was never been in Shetland, but her folk were Shetland. She was Icebster, the name. And she married this Welsh captain. And they had John. He got into Fairman. But they eventually got away. And I think they were away somewhere in the Welsh borders. And he didn't actually have very hired parks and wrote with animals there. But he'll be retired, he was older as me. As far as I can, he's still living. I'm no heard on him, but he had a boy.
Dus toch geen fond memories of the land there?
Not very, very hard.
Was it?
Yeah. It was alright in a way, but it's just the thing that I wouldn't attain up kind of in the usual, in the main way kind of way. I wouldn't no work that I would like it till a bidding in. But it was alright, really.
Lizzie Brun.
Yes, we married in 1938.
You married Simon Brun?
Yes, and Krusty and Lottie, Krusty was Simon's brother, Krusty and Lottie were South, dat denk ik South, Lottie had friends at South England. And so she got there, and through the time then Krusty got too. And they baked there, and they had this greengrocer's shop. And then they wanted Simon to come away too. So we got married, and then we got there. En we were doing dat alle wat en de waar starten. Dat is wat ain't everything. Because the fuck left, the parents left the place.
How far were you at? What was the name of the place?
It was doing in Essex.
Essex.
Harden Church in Essex. It's a pretty new built up area. And that was fine there. It was splendid. But then you couldn't, when the fuck got when anybody to buy the stuff. The place just seemed to empty after a time. We made a while you came, but you couldn't make anything out of it. And then Simon had to be called up. I wanted to buy the way, but I said I wasn't a kernel, can't say far away. Him again, I thought. I should buy the see, Christine was born. She was just 12 months old when we came home. And we can't Simon would be called up, but we never came. When we came home in August, and he was called up in October. So that was that.
And did Christy and Lottie come home as well?
Well, they bed so for long. De braat waren hier, they came home met in de einde van 1944, I think.
And did you find that awful different living in there?
Well, I liked it down there. I thought it was splendid. It was fine weather and it was fine, but it's heimelijk, that's shocking. It was that different. And it was that warm. It wasn't bad weather. Not so much. Of course, there's far more around there north, what was then. That's where the first of the 40s, you see. That's a brave while, was it? And we came home and I just waited that workburns with the fuck zeelang, and then I came over to work behind fucking by the zeelang. That I could only that till the war finished. And then when Simon came home, which the fuck was really elderly and they were able for much, so we just waited and helped them as long as they lasted.
And what about the war? What do you mind about the war here then? What was it?
Well, I minded the truth that it was really kind of eerie at times. Because there's German planes was coming over, and
bombing back and forth. They bombed not that far from us, but not just exactly near us while we were there, but they were nearer it when afterwards. I don't mind you seeing the planes gaan at night in Norway with the bombs, and then you come back in the morning, you could see torn pieces of the sides.
And the Bairns was up and
Bairns was up on some way to the other side of the country to be safe. Really saw the Bairns.
that must have been strange. No?
Well, it was. And the folk was all that serious. They never said them, some say when they smiling faces much. You noticed that.
Yeah, because the Bairns wasn't there. And with you, when they were bombing, did you have to go in air raid shelters?
Yeah, they were a lot of the folk of the some, you would say the lower classes got those Anderson's air raid shelters, and you could put it up with the gearing. And Simon and Kirsty fixed that up. So we were there many a time.
Were they better shelters for other folk?
Well, I never came. They had this in shelters that everybody could get into. But I don't think that really was the reason why a lot of them got them, some didn't. I really didn't ken that. But I think we got in, and the folk next door, and but that their own was got in. And they just have the whole, they looked the ground, but then it should like the scorrige iron sheets to hay, rundings to king, straight sides.
And the war here then, in Olivery, how did the war affect Olivery itself?
Will had affected, we did see when German planes coming over Shetland, we could see that for Fiblis there. And then there were a lot of other warships who come up and lay up Shetland. We saw that.
So you could see that for?
We could see that for Fiblis there. There's been a Fiblis there, isn't there? Yeah. And we could see that over Will for Fiblis there. But then during the lay up further up the Vaughan, we couldn't see them. But there were a lot of Anchary we saw them there.
And were there many soldiers around here, or was this?
Well, the soldiers came out the Bralock because they were blij that they hadden about to give them any eggs or anything. And then they were glad to go with their sheepskins. That if you cured sheepskins, they would buy them. And they would buy grocery for you if you hated it or so. If they could afford to pay for it.
So they were a bit of trade with the soldiers?
Yeah, that were they. Yes.
Addie Maud. There would have been a boy when the war broke out.
Yeah.
What's the memories of the war?
Should mind about the seaplanes flying over and when the bomb got off and so mind about that and the shells coming in right in over the holidays so would hear the bangs and they would see the swamp and the pieces standing up over the Hadley Hills. Yeah, that was kind of frightening because everybody was wondering what was going to happen. When something like that, a German plane would come over, everybody would kind of rush in and say they rush out because you didn't know what was going to happen.
Were you going to the skill then?
Yeah.
Did you have to attack your gas mask?
Yeah, I had gas masks. Carried that back and forth.
Were there many soldiers around here at all? Or?
They were back and forth, yes. Not a lot though. You could see a truckload of them coming back and forth and the covered wagons and shit. There weren't a lot around, but you were aware they were in the area in case.
Joy Jimson. Where did you go to school?
In Urford Primary one, then you got to the Anderson High.
What like was Urford?
Oh, I loved the school. Oh, absolutely loved it. I was walk at the school, yeah. Because there were a lot of bairns then, there were so many of them. Really at primary I think I liked everything. There was nothing I disliked.
And your teachers?
To begin we had Mrs. Leslie, She was awful fine, yeah. They had other teachers who came and good, and Jenny Gilbertson, I think, was probably my last teacher for a good learn. What she was really good at was concerts and school concerts, and learning was to sing and how to use your abilities as you came for singing and acting, that kind of thing.
Can you mind anything that you got involved with that she was involved
Well, we always had the school concert, and I mean we dressed up. I mind quite well being Bo Peep, you came probably the last concert, and then at Christmas time we always had a concert. Wouldn't you came just a part of the Christmas service being sang, and then I minded having a concert in the hall to get money for something to do with the war, okay? And we had to sing and act there too. Yeah, no, she was really good at that. And it was good for you, yeah. So that's what I mind about that.
Yeah. Did you ever go anywhere with your concerts?
No, you never go to anywhere. The farthest you ever could was Larrow, and that was quite a thing to go to Larrow.
Jean Tate. So you did through your lessons at the Anderson High School, then you passed out with that, did you?
Yeah, I passed out with that. That was when the time came and we were going to go to Aberdeen to do an agricultural course, and that was when Mikey and me was going again. And then I went and had this 2 months, and then we call up papers came. And then there was one of the teachers or lecturers that kind of arranged for me to go to this Road Institute. It was a place that they took Inland Army, they usually just trained them and then sent them some other way, but I don't know how he arranged for me to just to go, and I was to stay there.
Where was Rowan Institute?
Rowan Institute, it's in Aberdeenshire, it's just about, I think it's only about 4 or 5 miles away from Aberdeen. And I was there for a while because he had arranged for me just to be down on there and then working in the farm that was around there. It was a dairy farm, so that was a very early morning start. Sometimes we were up at the 4:15. Then they had shifts, and sometimes you didn't start the first day, and you only started maybe at 1 o'clock, I think. And then you had to work on a while, and then have rest, and then go back at night and do the evening time. So that made you be pretty lit up. So it was a very good. They had to change the road for one thing to the other. But we managed.
Were there a lot of animals then? Were there a lot of cows?
Oh yeah, there were a lot of cows. Quite a lot of cows, yeah. Sometimes you help with a little in the dairy as well. But and occasionally you maybe did anything to want to collect leaves or anything. You rode outside it very well, but most of it was in the dairy there. So I was there for a while. And then I got home for a holiday, and time came and I got the car and got to Larwick, and then they said they had no space on the boat. So I had to go home and wait a week. Because I never thought I should likely have farmed them, but I never thought about it. They weren't very much fun in doing it that time. And then when I got back, they had told me job. So I had went somewhere else, and I went to the Mullinubera after that. So I was there the rest of the while. And it was was just a sort of a family place. It was smaller. They were very nice. But it was a bit different. I had to go out sometimes with the man he could do with horse care delivered milk through Newbury, and I had to go out where. There were about an accident one day. I cut across a shortcut to somebody I had to deliver till, and he was up at the top, but it was a bit after the main round. And so I was doing, and I was waiting for him to come. Then all of a sudden I saw the horse and cart coming, and there was nobody on it. So I had to go and dash and take a hold of the horse. Before it got onto the main street, and then I thinking, what the hell? But and occasionally he didn't come out, he would send the small boy with me. We managed, we survived it. So,
You've given me a photo where a person dressed in uniform, in the long girl uniform. Did you have to wear that? Did you wear that all the time? Or
well, we wore different, I think we wore different trousers, more like dungarees I would say. But the chopper and that part of it, we wore that. And then when we dressed up, we put the inside and the cart and that. I think we had some kind of that long ago. I think we put on like some kind of puny things you would say were working. But just take somebody with good memories. It's a bit ago now.
And did the war affect you much then? Did you see much, like there would have been blackouts where you were?
Oh yes, there were blackouts at the time. We had to watch. We didn't put on a light or anything unless the blinds were drawn down. It was not very easy sometimes because if you were in a place with several folk in the same corridor, then the lights could shine through if you wanted the other, so you had to watch and not put the light on till you knew that everybody had their blinds down. So it was not.
And what would happen if they were a light shone with?
Well, they would talk that you were disobeying orders, and you see it would make it easier if they were anything that came over to fire at you, I suppose. But we were really lucky in lots of ways.
Anna Irvin helps the bairns at the Orford School reflect on the changes since World War II. Considering what Anna has said, what do you think life would have been like in the war? Do you think it would be quite a bit different from life that you're leading now and going to school now?
Yeah. A lot different because we don't really have to walk to school that much unless we do. And one thing different is that there was more people at your school.
There was more people and there was more people in every house. And the thing that strikes me very often nowadays, when I was a child, if we walked along the road from Huswick and Orford, there would always have been somebody working outside there. You would have seen somebody out at a house. Now you could walk that whole 2 miles and see nobody.
I walk to school sometimes, but it's not that long.
No.
Probably about a mile or half a mile or something like that. But I suppose that's a big difference having to walk about a mile and a half.
And then you can choose to walk. When I was at school, you're walking from here, there was children in both school. And you know, that's a very long walk. And sometimes they were absolutely soaked by the time that they got to the school.
There is one time that you can either take a car or walk, because in the winter at our school. In the summer, there's no transport.
No,
so.
no.
And we've come to the end. We hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you.